Hello, welcome to my channel. Join me as I teach you how to make this piece without any bubbles and very clear resin. Hello, just getting some of my pieces together. I am going to show you how I make resin with a pressed flower. So this is a piece I did, and it came out really good. So I was really impressed by this. So I'm going to show you guys what I did to get this. The first time I tried, it looked like this. And you could see the bubbles. And I did not like that at all, for obvious reasons. So I'm going to try and recreate this, but with different color flowers. And we'll see how it turns out. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. And don't forget to like. I am new to resin. I am all self-taught. I have done a lot of research. I've also been watching many videos and teaching myself. When you're working with resin, it is important to wear gloves. So I do wear my gloves. This is what I use is JDICTION UV Resin. And I like it. It's goes clear. It is the highest recommended one out of them all. It doesn't have any type of yellowing. And as you could tell, the bubbles are just not even there. And I'm going to show you how I got rid of the bubbles because it's really tricky. You have to make sure that you do this type of art in a very thin layers at a time. So, because the flowers can create a air bubble behind it without you even realizing it. So it's really important. So these are the tools I'm using. I do have my UV light that I'm also going to be using today. Okay, just very simple little UV light that came in a kit. And then I'm going to be using pressed flowers. When I first tried to make this piece, I was using regular dried flowers. So I had gotten a bunch of them. And I realized that these type of flowers, they cause a lot of bubbles. It's really hard to get the bubbles out. So then I purchased dry flowers, pressed dried flowers, and found it much easier. Much easier. And then that's how I ended up getting this one. So as you could tell, it's night and day process. What I love about these flowers, there's so many different colors you can find on Amazon. Just put in dried pressed flowers craft, and you're going to come across all kinds of them. So again, I have all kinds of colors. I'm going to do purple this time and see how that comes out. And the molds I'm using are ones that I got from Let's Resin. From Let's Resin. Oh no, I'm sorry, not Let's Resin. It was from JDICTION. It was a kit I got. So these are JDICTION molds. Now, as you can tell, my molds are pretty dirty. Okay. So the way you clean it, I'm going to show you how I do that before you start, because for one, water really does not do a very good job of cleaning them, I have found. I actually use resin tape. I found it gets everything out. So I really, really like this. This came with the kit. I did buy some more that just came in today. But let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with cleaning up my mold. So I'm just literally, and don't mind my scissors. They're really huge. I got to get new scissors. See, I mean, it just cleaned off my scissors. I mean, it's like insane. Okay, we are gonna use my art scissors because that was not working. And of course, you always want to put it back around to protect it, okay? So I think for this piece, I really love this one and this one for the flowers. It gives you a lot more room. So I just literally put it in like this. And I clean it. You see how clean that just got? So now I'm just putting a small amount in. Just need a little bit, and then we're going to be spreading it around and focusing on getting those air bubbles out before we move forward. These are my little resin tools that I use. It's made out of silicone, so it makes it really easy for moving around. Now you just want to use the UV light. I do about 90 to 150 seconds. And right now I'm just speeding it up for you so you don't get so bored. But I do that for each layer of the resin. So you want to be careful with the flowers because when you're getting them out, you don't want to just open them up, get all excited, and then the flower pieces go all over the place. Because these are real pressed flowers. They're not fake. And their little particles will go everywhere. So please be careful. Okay? So we're going to set this aside while we figure this out so we don't get anything in our resin mold. I'm going to take my gloves off right now so I can actually feel the flowers. Okay. See how I do that very carefully? And be very careful with how you do it. And it's always best to get yourself some tweezers. Makes it a lot easier. Okay? So obviously, we are working with this type of shape. So as we're picking our flowers and what we want to put in there, you're obviously going to have to trim a little bit, but you want to be careful because they're so delicate, they can easily fall apart. I love this piece right here. Okay. So I don't get it in my mold. You can at least turn it around to see how it will lay. So you have an idea where you want to cut. I think that's it for right now because it's such a small mold piece. You don't want to overcrowd it because then it just doesn't look nice. So just moving this aside, I'm going to flip this back over to protect them. And then I'm going to move this down below where I have my other flowers and out of sight. Now, before we lay our flowers, this is the important part. You have to put some resin in your mold first, just a tad. You need to have it wet. This is how I created bubbles in the other one. So the second one, I actually did it a little bit differently with the help of some of YouTuber videos. So I'm just going to put a little bit. Okay. Now what I'm doing, so moving this around, it's sort of going to act like a paste. Okay. Now what I'm doing, smashing it. Very gentle. I want to make sure every flower is touched in this resin. So if you saw what I just did, all I did was move this a little bit over that way because there's a space that will allow me to put something in there to mask that. Okay, use the heat gun one last time. Make sure there's nothing hidden for air bubbles, and then we're going to go ahead and use the UV light. This time I'm just going to do it for 90 seconds, not the 150, because I didn't put a lot on there, but I do want to make sure it hardens. Now we're going to be doing our second layer of flowers. And then we'll be putting a little bit more resin on. And then the heat gun. And then the UV light. Now we want to lay that second layer of flower in. And make sure to tap it into the resin so that it's completely saturated. Then we're going to use our heat gun again and the UV lamp. So we're just basically repeating each step for each layer. So this is when I'm going to flip it over. Make sure I don't have any bubbles. Don't have any bubbles. It's looking pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and put a little bit more on. Again, I'm just repeating the same steps as before. Spreading that resin. I'm going to be using the heat gun. Get those bubbles out. I'm going to gently lay my flowers in. I'm going to saturate and pat them in, making sure each one is completely saturated. And then use the heat gun one more time. Make sure I've got all the bubbles. And then the UV light. Now just checking the hardness, making sure there's no bubbles. This is where I'm just going to go in just with the resin. We're done with all the flowers. We want to make sure we have a good back. We want to always make sure to use that heat gun. Get all those bubbles out. And then this time we're going to use the UV light for 150 seconds because this is one good top layer that we're adding. Now I'm going to test it out. So far, it's looking good. So this is the part where if you wanted to add a color in the background, you can. I'm not, just for the sake of this video, I wanted to show you what it looked like, how you can make a very clear piece with the flowers. And it really is just about the layers and taking your time with each layer, soaking them in first, and really making sure there's absolutely no air bubbles. So I'm going to go ahead and top this off with some more resin. Again, like I said, you just do layer by layer, because if I were to fill this up all the way to the top and then do my UV light, there'd be so many bubbles popping up. And again, that's what happened to this, and that's how we got that. So to avoid that, you want to do it the way I just did it. So we're just going to go ahead and do some more. Now what I'm doing is just getting the bubbles out. I'm going to put it under the UV light one more time, and we should be finished. Okay, so this is what I did earlier. And let's flip it through. You could see how clear it is. It just needs to have a little sandpapering on the edges over here to soften them up. It looks like there's a bubble, but there actually isn't. It's just more at the edge. But that, I think, came out really good. And I love JDICTION resin. Not all resin is going to cure like this. Again, see how that's just the edge that needs to be sandpapered. And so you could see. So I really like this technique. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to please like and subscribe. I know I usually do flowing art, but I've been sort of testing out resin. I really like that you don't have to, especially on the UV resin, you don't have to wait for hours, even a day sometimes. It's nice that you get the results this fast. And again, this is what I did the other day, just to compare why it's important to do it with that technique. That's the difference. Okay. Thank you so much again. Join me for next time. Playing around with resin and learning all kinds of new, really cool tricks. See you soon.